Good morning, my dear boys. How are you? Are you fine? Okay, I hope that. Today we will start our lesson by a quick revision from the previous lessons. We know the organism exists in everywhere. Toothbrush, in our body, in our food, in the skin, in all these places. And we know unicellular organisms that have no nucleus organisms and divide to number one, bacteria and archaea. It's divided to bacteria and archaea. So it needs a nucleus and a membrane that cover organisms like a mitochondria. It's similar for mitochondria. And we know the mitochondria is store of energy and support the cell by energy. Now we will discuss how the bacteria are harmful and advantage for organisms. It be harmful when it can cause dishes, for example, poisoning, and infections. Strep throat, for example. Some bacteria and archaea are useful and helpful to other organisms. Helpful and useful to other organisms. Here we have to refer to note there's many bacteria live with us and no harmful effect for us. I repeat, here we have to refer to note there's many bacteria live with us and no harmful effect. It's very, very important. You have to know this information. Now, let's take an example. The termite, a kind of ant, rely on bacteria to break down the eaten wood. It's eat wood. And depend on bacteria to break down the eaten wood. Other example, the cows. Other example, the cows. Archaea help the cows to digest the grass that eat and what it stores. The cow stores the grass, chewed grass in compartment, in a compartment within its stomachs. Within its stomach. Now, the organisms break down the grass inside the stomach for the cow. The organisms that live in cow stomachs are members of Archaea kingdom. A member of Archaea kingdom. So, we have to point out a note. Even humans need bacteria. Even humans need bacteria and archaea. For what? For digestion. For digestion. Now, the bacteria in your intestines help you to breaking down food. And it can what? Produce a vitamin K. Produce a vitamin K. Okay. Now, most archaea live in harsh environments. In harsh environment. For example, the basement, salty water, deep sea vents, for example, hot spring. In all these places, it can live. And now, archaea are descended from the oldest living organisms on Earth, from ancient and so old. It comes from so old, from ancient. Now, what about protists? Protists are unicellular or multicellular organisms. It make their own food or eat other organisms. Make their own food by itself or eat other organisms. And protist kingdoms contains unicellular organisms like bacteria and archaea. Protists contain bacteria and archaea. Bacteria and archaea. Here, ancient bacteria. Now, how do you tell these tiny organisms far away? How can we keep ourselves from it? The first, protists are much larger than bacteria. The first information, protists are much larger than bacteria. Protists greater than bacteria. And there's a generous number, maybe 100, 1,000, 1 million of bacteria cells might fit in to a typical protist. So, most protists are microscopic. For example, an amoeba, it needs microscope. Amoeba, it needs a microscope. Now, the cells of protists have central nucleus, and other membrane-bound organelles. Here we have to distinguish between plant and fungi, and protists have simple body structures and lack specialized tissues. It needs specialized tissues. And that is unlike animals. In some points, it's unlike animals. On other hand, typical protists include algae, amoeba, and slime molds. Okay. So there are plant-like, animal-like, fungi-like. Protists gives algae are similar to plants. Algae are similar to plants. For what? It have chlorophyll, number one. It makes their own food by itself. From other hand, the amoebas similar to animals. Amoebas similar to animals. How? It can move from place to other place. It can obtain food by eating other organisms, like the animals. Obtain food by eating other organisms and move from place to other place. Fungus-like protists. Such as slime mold, orange slime mold, break down dead organisms to obtain food. Break down dead organisms to obtain food. Now, what about the viruses? We know the viruses is like the covering between living and non-living things. It bridges a gap between living and non-living things, so that they may seem alive. Viruses are tiny particles that enter the body of living things, take over some of its cells, and cause the organism to get sick. Okay. They may seem alive. A part of scientists believe that viruses are not living organisms. Consider it are not living organisms. Now, what about classified of viruses? Virus is not classified in any of the 6 kingdoms. What is the reason about this point? They don't carry out all of the basic life processes. Only it can carry out reproduction. Only it can carry out one property called reproduction. It's so small, we need microscope. We need microscope to study them. There's a common cold. Common cold is caused by virus. And some viruses are not harmful. The other is not harmful. Sometimes enter our body of living things and take some of its cells and cause to it gets sick. It becomes the organism is sick. Now we are gonna to mention some serious diseases. For example, chickenpox, polio, HIV/AIDS, sneezing and coughing, for example. And here, send cold viruses from one person to other person, like virus corona, for example. Now, what is do? Its process, it attach itself to a cell. Attach to a cell. When a virus enters cell, when the virus enters the cell, attach itself to the cell. Now, it takes a control. It becomes controlled by the activity of the cell, and its instruction the cell to produce more viruses. It became control for all activities and produce more viruses. Now, when the time passes, over time means the cells become failed with a large number of virus particles, and it's what it do now? It bursts open. Then the released viruses from the cell can invade other cells and causing infection and disease. This is all. Now I will repeat what are bacteria and protists. Bacteria, kingdom, ancient bacteria, true bacteria, hot spring bacteria, root shape, here, severe shaped step, spiral shape, line dishes. What are bacteria and protists? This protist kingdom consists of plant life, animal life, fungi life, red algae, paramecium, orange slime, mold. What are viruses? Viruses, tiny particles enter the body of a living thing. Take over some of its cells, it overcome the cells and cause the organism to get sick. Now let's see a video.
At first it may seem like protists and bacteria are extremely similar because they can both be unicellular, so I'm here to clear up all that confusion. First, we're going to talk about bacteria. It is a prokaryotic cell, which means it does not have a nucleus inside it, nor does it have any organelles like mitochondria or a Golgi apparatus. It is much smaller than a protist and is always unicellular. They have the genetic material in a big looped mess in the middle of their cell, while eukaryotic cells have the genetic material in linear form by using chromosomes. Bacteria reproduce by binary fission, a form of asexual reproduction, and are able to reproduce very quickly. Bacteria belong to the domain Bacteria. An example of a bacteria is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which is the bacteria that infects the lungs and causes tuberculosis. It is in fact a bacteria mainly because it is a prokaryotic cell. Next, we're going to talk about what a protist is. Protists are eukaryotic cells, meaning their cells do in fact have a nucleus and organelles inside them. They can come in both unicellular and multicellular form. Their genetic material is contained in neat chromosomes which are stored in the cell's nucleus. Protists can reproduce either asexually if they're unicellular or sexually if they're multicellular. Protists are part of the domain Eukarya. An example of a unicellular protist would be Plasmodium malariae, the parasitic protozoa that causes malaria. Although both the tuberculosis bacterium and this parasitic protozoa can both cause disease, the protist that causes malaria is a protist mainly because it is a eukaryotic cell. To recap and to go over some of the main differences, bacteria are prokaryotic cells and protists are eukaryotic cells. Protists are about 10 times bigger than bacteria in terms of cell size. Bacteria have their genetic material in a looped mass, while protists have
thank you. It's enough now. We can move to page 40. Put the highlight if you wish. Page 40 from previous lessons. You can put the highlight. Two kingdom, bacteria and archaea. Bacteria and archaea also like other membrane-covered organelles. It exists in everywhere. Toothbrush, food, skin, inside our body. There's two kinds, useful and harmful. Useful in cows. In cows, for example, break the grass down inside the stomach of the cow. In our body, produce vitamin K. It can live in a harsh environment like deep sea vents and hot springs and extremely salty water. Page 41. Page 41. Protist kingdom. Put highlight. Quick revision. There's 100, maybe 100 or 1,000 of bacteria cells. Most protists are microscopic. Have a central nucleus. The main idea, I refer to main idea. Protists have simple body structures and lack specialized tissues. Here's the kind, algae, amoebias, plant-like, explained in the PowerPoint. Algae, like the plants, have chlorophyll, make their own food, and amoeba, it has some characteristics with animals, similar for animals. Move from place to place, obtain food by eating other organisms. Now, quick check. Unicellular organism without nucleus lives in the soil and breaks down waste materials. Are these archaea or bacteria? The answer, you can write the answer. It's a bacterium. The answer, it's a bacterium. It's a bacterium. It does not live in a harsh environment. It doesn't have or live in a harsh environment. It's bacterium and does not live in a harsh environment. Now, what stops scientists from classifying plant-like protists as plants? Write the answer. Some are unicellular and they lack specialized tissues and have simple body structures. I repeat, critical thinking. Some are unicellular and they lack specialized tissues and have simple body structures. Page 24. What are viruses? What are viruses? Viruses bridge the gap between living and non-living things. Scientists believe the viruses are not living things. And it can be classified in any of the 6 kingdoms. Put the highlight. Here you have to distinguish between 2 kinds of viruses, harmful and useful. Harmful get effect for the humans, and useful it can for chewing the grass, for example, in the example of cows. Here the virus, it can enter inside the cell and control by its activity and make a mini copy of virus. Now, explain why viruses are not classified into any of the 6 kingdoms. Write the answer for quick check. Write the answer for quick check. Viruses are classified as non-living things because they cannot perform all the basic life processes of growth. I repeat, they cannot perform all the basic life processes of growth. For example, use of energy, getting rid of waste, and response to the environment. They can only carry out reproduction, only one property. When could an infected person cause someone else to get sick? Write the answer here. A person may become sick. A person may become sick when they come in contact. When they come in contact with someone who is infected, like virus corona in this time. I will repeat the answer. A person may become sick when they come in contact with someone who is infected. Okay, now open your workbook. Open your workbook. Page 8. Page 8. Let's begin. Answer the homework. I'll choose number 1. Yamin Muhannad, can you answer number 9? Number 9 on the screen. Number 9. Yamin.
The two major groups into which plants are organized are virus and
vascular. Be careful. Major group into the plants. Okay? This is homework from previous lesson. Okay. Yasin Muhammad.
Mr. Page what?
Page 8. Page 8. Page 8.
I opened it.
Yes, page 8. Hurry up, please.
The two major groups into which plants are organized are vascular and non-vascular.
Excellent, you did well. Excellent. Excellent, Yasin. Okay, number 10. Ubada Ramzi.
Yes, mister.
Number 10.
Unlike plants, fungi get food by breaking down dead organisms.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ubada. Hussein Shahab. Hussein Shahab. Hussein Shahab.
Yes.
Number 11.
Let the rice is called yeast.
Yes, excellent. Yes, you did well. Perfect. Yes. Excellent. Number 12. Aliyazam Bilal. Number 12. Aliyazam Bilal.
Yes. Bacteria are unicellular organism with no nucleus or mitochondria.
Nucleus and mitochondria. Yes. Excellent. Excellent. Charvel.
Yes.
Charvel, number 12, or sorry, number 13.
The two kingdoms used to classify bacteria are the true bacteria and ancient bacteria.
Yes, excellent. You did well. True bacteria and ancient bacteria. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Lamar Khalid. Lamar.
No, teacher, I am Omar Khalid, but my sister do the name Lamar Khalid.
Okay, change, rename yourself, yes. I allow to you to rename yourself. You can change.
The book, any book, teacher.
Workbook. Page 8.
Yeah. No, it's color. I have many books of science. I have one pink, I have one purple. I have so many.
What? Closer look and workbook. Workbook.
Teacher, look, this book.
Now open your workbook. Open your workbook. Open your workbook.
It's named Teacher Reading and Writing Workbook
Yes.
Science.
Yeah. Number
It's
14.
not like your page.
You can match it
Number
between the
14.
numbers. You can. There's some books are different a little.
Okay, number
In
14.
order. In order only. In order.
Okay. Number 14.
You can read. You can read from the screen. You can read from the screen.
Okay. Protist.
Protest.
Protist can be include
Unicellular
unicellular
or
or
multicellular. Yeah. No, yes, that's good. Thank you. Marwan Waliyuddin. Marwan.
Yes,
Number 15, please.
unlike bacteria, protists have large cells, a nucleus, and bound organelles.
Yes, excellent, yeah, Marwan. Excellent. Now, number 16. Iyad Ahmed. Number 16. Iyad Ahmed. Number 16. Iyad Ahmed.
Yes, Mr.
Number 16.
Viruses are not classified as living organisms because they carry out no life processes except reproduction.
Yes, reproduction. Only it can make reproduction. Only. Okay. Thank you. Lamar Khalid.
Teacher, can you go up? I want to write the other. Write it down.
Hurry up because we haven't the time. Hurry up. Half minute. Okay. Now,
No, 1 minute.
yeah. You come back to the recording of the lessons.
13, teacher.
Okay. Now number 17. Number 17. I'll explain the questions. What makes plants and animals different from bacteria? What are the differences between plants, animals, and bacteria? Plants and animals are multicellular, but the bacteria are unicellular. Big difference. So, bacteria cells have no nucleus or mitochondria. Plants make their own food, bacteria cannot make their own food. You can transfer. You come back to the lesson from the recording. Page 9. Page 9. Number 1 contains only closely related organisms. This means species. Number two, the broadest group, the largest group into which an organism can be classified, it means kingdom. Number 3, help scientists identify, study groups, and name organisms, classification. Number 4, means contains tubes or fizzles. Vascular. 5, animal without a backbone. P, vertebrate. Invertebrate. Without a backbone, invertebrate. 6, a type of land that tends to be small and close to the ground. Non-vascular. It hasn't a tube. 8, organism that carries out only one life process, reproduction. H, virus. Yasin Ahmed. Yasin.
Mr. I didn't finish number 17 in page number 8.
You come back to the recording, the lesson on the platform. I upload the record of lessons. Yeah? Yeah, try. Have you finished? Yasin?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Page 9. Page 9. Living things are often similar to each other. Scientists classify living things by similarity into smaller and more specific groups. Number 1, classify. The largest group into which an organism is classified is, okay, I will choose Ubada Ramzi. Ubada.
Yes, Mr.
Read from the largest group. Read.
The largest group into which an organism is classified is its kingdom. The 6 kingdoms include plants, animals, fungi, protists, true bacteria, and ancient bacteria.
Yeah.
Each kingdom is divided into progressively smaller groups as follows: phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. The narrowest group into which an organism can be classified is species.
Yes.
2 words make up the scientific name of a living thing. The first is the genus name. The second is the species name. The true bacteria and the ancient bacteria are unicellular organisms with no nucleus or mitochondria. Ancient bacteria usually live in very harsh environments in which other organisms could not survive.
Okay. Thank you. Now, yes, Lamar Khalid, yes.
Teacher, this page what?
Page 10, sorry. Page 10.
Okay.
Page 10. Okay, now time's up. Thank you so much. You can back to the